8:43 in the morning. The Pacific Ocean is an infinite mirror. And somewhere in the sky, up there, a woman gives coordinates over the radio. 1 line, 2 numbers, a mental coordinate, and then absolute silence. No scream, no impact, no cinematic ending. Only the most famous silence in the history of aviation. Because this is one of those stories that should not have been possible. Amelia Earhart was the most visible person on the planet when she got on that airplane. Press, sponsors, an entire nation watching. And even so, she vanished as if the sky had swallowed her whole. And the worst part is that technically, she was close. So close that you can still feel it. Howland was the target, a tiny island lost in the middle of nowhere. In 1937, no GPS, no screens, no arrow telling you 300 meters to go. Just calculations, sky, fuel, and a radio. Today you're going to understand that the Earhart legend is not born from the mystery itself. It is born from a chain of technical errors, media pressure, fragile decisions, and one last message. So precise that, paradoxically, it was not enough to save her. If the plane appeared tomorrow, would the myth really end? Or would it become an even greater mountain? First, let's climb, to understand how big the monster really is. The final leg was Lae-to-Howland, approximately 2,556 miles over open ocean. A flight planned to last around 18 hours, depending on precise navigation and radio communication. One small mistake, repeated for hours, turns into miles of error, and miles of error become absolute emptiness. In the final phase, everything came down to 2 things. 1, spotting a tiny island with your own eyes in an infinite sea. 2, closing the communication circuit with the ship waiting for her, the Itasca, which was ready to guide her in. But that circuit never closed. Imagine an invisible ruler stretching across the Pacific. That is a line of position. When you navigate, you may not know exactly where you are, but you can know that you are somewhere along a line. What is the problem? A line is not a point. A line is an infinite road. Knowing you are on the right line sounds precise, but it can also mean I'm in the right place. I'm headed in the right direction, and even so, you can still be dozens of miles from the target. And out on the ocean, dozens of miles are the difference between landing and disappearing without a trace. To understand why the world became obsessed with this silence, you first have to understand who she was before that day. Amelia did not just fly, she built meaning. In an era when the sky belonged to only a few, she became a symbol. Independence, modernity. The woman who does not ask permission. And at her side was George Putnam. They were not just a couple, they were an engine of myth, of narrative, of this is not a flight, it is a message to the world. And when you turn a flight into a message, you are no longer flying only for yourself, you are flying for an idea. And when you fly for an idea, the margin for saying, I'm turning back, becomes smaller. June 1937. The global journey begins in Miami. It was not a pleasure trip. It was a massive project, with the eyes of the world on it. And by late June, they arrive in Lae with around 22,000 miles behind them. It sounds heroic, until you think about the cost to the human body. Accumulated exhaustion, heat, decision fatigue, small concessions, because major accidents almost never begin with an explosion. They begin with, it's fine, this works. They begin with, this should hold. They begin with, nothing's going to happen. July 2nd, 10 o'clock in the morning in Lee. They take off for Howland, the cruelest leg, the one that does not forgive. And from that moment on, the story stops being epic and becomes a countdown, because over water, there are no reference points, no mountains, no roads, no guide, only sky, only mirror, only wind. and an airplane that has to find a needle resting in the immensity. The Itasca records communications. There are reports of altitude, of problems, of attempts. The plane had a call sign, and the ship was there, ready to help. The documentation mentions communication problems, interference, friction, the kind of failure you never see in movies because it is boring, until it kills you. And then you witness the scene that turns everything into legend. The last recorded message, the famous line, the kind of sentence that makes you think they are minutes away from arriving, the kind of sentence that, in theory, should solve the story. And yet, it leads us into the void. Because even if you are on that line, you still need one more thing, to know where on the line you are. And if you cannot see the island, you have to make an impossible decision. Do you follow it one way or the other? Every minute you choose wrong, fuel strips away an option. Every minute, the ocean gets bigger. Every minute, you get more used to the blue and notice fewer differences. Now imagine the tension inside that cockpit. Dry eyes, a flat horizon, the fuel needle, and the certainty that someone is waiting for you. But you cannot see them. And this is the hardest part for the brain to accept, because Howland does not look like an island. It looks like a mistake in the landscape, a shift in color, something so small that if you blink at the wrong angle, it does not exist. In 1937, the Pacific was not a map, it was a trap. After the silence, the world reacts the way the world reacts to a missing celebrity, with urgency and spectacle. A huge search is launched, naval, aerial, documented. Methods, altitudes, distances are all recorded. There are details so precise they are almost insulting. Low-altitude flights, intervals, search patterns. As if geometry could force the ocean to give back what it had swallowed. And there is an image that feels like a movie. Planes searching from 1,000 feet, separated by miles, sweeping the sea as if the sea were a carpet. There is even one devastating note. At that altitude, it was believed they could spot a small object, like a boat, from several miles away. So the viewer thinks exactly what you were thinking right now. If they could see that much, how did they see nothing? Because a perfect search in the wrong place is an elegant way not to find anything. Gardner, what keeps the mystery alive? An island we now call Nikumaroro. During the search, it appears in reports. It is inspected. It is described. There are elements in the landscape that explode narratively. A lagoon, vegetation, a wrecked ship. A place that, unlike the open ocean, offers something the sea does not: surface. And now the mystery goes up another level. Because if Amelia did not go down near Howland, then that final line was not a compass pointing toward rescue. It was a sign that she was in a corridor and chose the wrong side. And if she chose the wrong side, then the ending is not a quick blow. The ending could be something else. If Nikumaroro was on the map, why was the case not closed there? Because the inspection does not deliver a clear ending. There are no flags, no obvious signs, no airplane waiting for you like in a well-written script. There are descriptions. There is potential. There is a maybe. And maybe is fuel for myth. And then the story jumps through time. The promise of proof appears. Human remains reported on Nikumaroro, a finding that, if it held, would change everything. But even that carries a curse typical of this case. Losses, gaps, debate, the disappearance of what should have closed the door. As if the story had a rule. Every time you get close to an answer, the answer turns to fog. And that is not just a thing of the past. In recent times, every possible discovery reopens the case, reignites hope, and very often collapses. Because the ocean manufactures mirages too. What looks like a plane may be rock. What looks like the end may be another question. And there lies the true mechanism of the Earhart legend. It is not only that we do not know, it is that the world has learned to live off not knowing. Expeditions, theories, documents, rumors, the mystery as a cultural machine. But let's be fair, not everything is smoke. There is hard data. There are records. There is chronology. There are solid pieces. We know they took off from Lae on July 2nd. We know how brutal that leg was. We know there were recorded communications. We know the last contact leaves that line as the final nail. We know a massive search was carried out and was officially abandoned on July 19th, 1937. We know that, legally, the story was closed in 1939. In other words, the world did close the case. It closed it on paper. What was never closed was the human mind, because paper can declare a death, but paper cannot give you a final scene. And here comes the most powerful contradiction of all. Amelia became eternal not because of what she did, but because of what we never saw. Her absence became her greatest work. Visibility against disappearance, fame against silence, modernity against technological limits. In 1937, the world was already dreaming as if it were the future, but navigating as if it were still incomplete. But what if tomorrow someone found the plane, complete, identifiable? What would happen? Part of you would say, finally. And another part, probably most of you, might say, now the really interesting part begins. Because myth does not live on the answer, it lives on the chase. And when the answer arrives, another war will open. Where was it? Why there? Who made the mistake? Who hid it? And suddenly, the mystery does not die. It changes shape, like a shadow that only needs another wall to rest upon. Maybe that is the most human thing about this story. We love the idea that a precise sentence can save us. We love believing that if we make the right calculation, if we send the right message, if we follow the right line, the world responds. But sometimes the world does not respond. Sometimes the line exists, and the island never appears. Sometimes you are close, and it still is not enough. And that is why Amelia Earhart is not just a disappearance. She is a mirror, the mirror of our limits, of our need for closure, of the way we turn a void into a legend. Or, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, support the channel by subscribing. That way, we can keep bringing you new mysteries. And tell me, is there a specific story you'd like us to tell for you? Sending you a hug.